Hello and welcome to the third week of our internet programming class. This week, if you have finished your homework assignment, you pretty much know about creating a new web page or website using the Visual Web Developer. And this week I will give you a brief introduction to the HTML and an HTML programming for creating web pages. We'll create our ASP.NET website. We probably won't do much in terms of ASP programming and coding. I'll probably just show you a little bit and real quick about how to write little ASP codes in C#. But we'll essentially delve into the ASP programming with C# next week or the week after that, after I show you about the details and essentially more information about HTML. Some students may not have experience with HTML, and I think it would be very helpful for them. There is also a website about HTTP that I had put online last week, and that is mandatory for graduate students and optional for undergrads. We will study that this week also, and basically next week we will study about the HTTP protocol. So that being said, I welcome you back on the third week of the class, and let's talk about creating another website and start coding HTML. Alright, now to study about HTML markup language more. First off, we need to create a website, and then we will use Visual Web Developer 2010 to create our website, and then we add an HTML file to it, and then we create a title for our HTML file using the title tag. And after I have that infrastructure ready, then I will talk about the blocks in HTML. And from the first week, you may remember there is a website, www.3.org, that contains information about HTML tags and HTML attributes and HTML elements and so forth. And so if you need to check about this information, you can log in. You can actually go on that website, and you don't have to remember or carry a book about HTML tags and elements to remember how to create your HTML files, as long as you have internet access, of course. So now let's start working with our HTML files. So this is the website that I told you about, the index of elements in HTML. Actually, it is HTML 4.01. And so you can see the link to the website up here, www.3.org/tr/html401/index/elements.html. And the link is basically it points you to a table containing all the elements and the tags within the HTML, and it has several legends as to the elements being optional, if they refer to an empty element, a forbidden element, whether or not they're deprecated in HTML 4.01, and also if they support or are supported in the frame set document type definition that we were discussing earlier when we last week we talked about essentially the 3 different types of XHTML files. Okay, here we are now in our Visual Web Developer 2010 Express Edition. As I showed you last week, we could open projects, open websites, create new projects, or create new websites by clicking on one of these links up here. And what I want to do is create a new website. To create a new website from the Visual Web Developer that I just started, I can click on New Website, or I can go up here from File and then left click and then create new website. In the new website, I have the options of creating a new ASP.NET empty website or creating a new ASP.NET website from the template. I don't want that. I want an empty website. To the left, I want to have Visual C# as my programming language. I might not use it in this particular example right now, but that would be the language that I am interested in having. And then I want my website to be on a file system, which is the location of my website. That means that it will be saved on my hard drive, or I could have it put directly on a web server on the internet, and that web server could have options of HTTP or FTP protocols. I would like to save my file on my website, on my computer, and as I said, when I run my website, the Visual Web Developer automatically runs a virtual web server on my local host and opens a random port to my local host, and via that port, with Hypertext Transfer Protocol, or HTTP, connects to my website. So let's call this website week 3 and click OK. Now that you clicked on OK, you would see that your new website has been created, and there is basically a web config file which contains the web configurations for your website. It is an ASP.NET, so it has configurations that we might not and we will not use in our HTML files, but essentially it governs the way that our website will be processed. This is the location of the website. As you remember from last week, you have the Solution Explorer window to the right that contains information about properties of your website. You can refresh this window to basically refresh the new files that you created. You can nest files that are related together, and we'll see about that next week when we are talking about ASP. You can copy your website, or you can maintain the configurations of your ASP.NET. To the left, you see a toolbox window that I will not go over this week. I will talk more about the programming HTML rather than using the easy-to-use features of my web developer. Once you're comfortable with coding or programming your HTML tags, then you could just simply go ahead and use your design windows to create, basically visually create your website. In the middle is where your code or your design window will show up, and we need to add an HTML file to this week. So go ahead in the Solution Explorer, right click on your website and add new item from the pop-up menu. From the new item, again, you will move back to the new item wizard page. Make sure that your code is Visual C#, and what you will have to do is to create a new HTML page. So scroll down and click on the HTML page, and down at the naming bar, type your the title for your new web page. And the title for the page that I'm creating is week 03 new page. And notice that the extension for this page is HTML, which stands for HTML. Click on Add, and this will add your new page. Now, your new page document type is HTML and is public. It is from the document type definition, uses XHTML 1.0. It's transitional, and it's English. The language is English, and the deprecation and the data definition types are referred to the w3.org xhtml1 transitional. And what we said about the transitional pages was that essentially in the transitional web pages, you support the deprecated parts or the deprecated elements from the traditional HTML. You could have frame set and other types of document styles. Notice that you have an HTML file, essentially HTML tag or HTML body, that is the main block or the root of your page. Then you would have a head element and a body element within your HTML. And what I did is that I just clicked on this little minus next to the element, and when you click on the minus sign, it would collapse everything that is contained within that element. And you can use this if you haven't had experience with this kind of visual environments. You can use this to essentially observe your elements to see how they are nested, if they're nested correctly or not. And you can also collapse some parts of your elements that make the code look messy, and this way you have a convenient way of looking at your code. So if I click on the plus sign, it would expand that element. And here I can clearly see that I have a head element and a body element. And if I move to the gray shaded area of the element, it would show me what is the code that is within that element. Basically visually collapses it on a kind of tooltip window, and if I or expands it, and if I expand, I see that the things that were contained within that element. So I expand the body right here, so the body is empty and the head element contains the title element. And let's give this title and this website a title. So let's run this page in the browser. If I click, I see that it is asking me to save the website. Do you want to save changes before viewing the file? I can click yes, no, or cancel it. Let me cancel it and just show you how you could say whether or not your website or your pages are saved. If you see a page on the title tab of the page that has a star or an asterisk next to it, that means that this is not saved. To save a page, you can either go on Save icon up here, or you can go on File and save your pages. You can save all pages and files within your website by pressing Control S or pressing Control Shift S respectively. Or you could save your page as a new name. So let me just go ahead and click on this Save right button up there and show. So here is my website. Again, it is an HTTP website, uses HTTP protocol. It's located or served from my local host web server, and the port that it can be accessed as a random number 59340. This is the root of my website. That's the main folder, and that's the name of the page that I created within my website. As you see, it is an empty page, so it's blank white, and the title for the page is Welcome to the Third Week of the Class. That was the title that I gave to this website. Okay, so now let's see what other extra stuff we could put in the head element. One of the things that you could put in the head element is essentially comments. And we saw that we can put the title, and the title is the only element that can be visible, and that would be on the title of the window that the web browser opened the web page in. And and I showed you the example of the title. And here is the example of a comment. A comment tag starts with an opening bracket, an opening tag, and then there's an exclamation mark, and then 2 dashes, and the closing tag for this comment is 2 dashes and the closing bracket, and whatever you put in the comment tag, as you can see here, turns green, and that says that this is a comment. You can also put the comment tag within the body of your document. So once you put the comment tag, the opening of the comment tag, the rest of your document turns green, meaning that it's not closed. And in order to have tag well rounded, you'd have to close it within the closing tag, and or the closing comment tag. And then you can put this is the body element. And when you save your file and run it in the browser, you see that it is not necessarily nothing is shown in your document. Now if you remove the comment tag, this will be shown on the document as a normal text. So let's remove this. Now the next element that we can put is are meta tags, and meta tags are the tags that contain information about the document type. You're encoding information about your document and the keywords that you want to use. You want the search engines use to find your document. So, for example, if I want to add a meta tag that contains several keywords, I enter the tag meta, and if I close it, the web developer automatically closes it as an empty tag. And if you remember, for example, the horizontal rule or horizontal line tag that we used last week is an empty tag, meaning that there's no information has to be supported within an opening tag and a closing tag of this this element. So, or rather, this is an empty element. So it will be closed within its own tag. And then I want this meta tag to be keywords of my document, and the contents that I want to put for the keyword will be, say, UHV Internet Programming course, COSC 4341, COSC 6341, and any other tags that you want to put in your document to serve as keywords. You could put the encoding information about your document, the document type, whether it's an HTML document or any other kind, and so forth. So again, if you run the document, you'll see that nothing is shown in the document itself or the window, but now this document, in its head element, it contains those keywords that a search engine might be able to search and find the document for me. Alright, aside from the title, the comments, and the meta tags, you could also add more information or more elements to your head element, and those elements contain are functions and scripts. I will not go into the details of this. We will study them a little later, and especially with the ASP.NET 4, we do not really require or need to know more information about this, but maybe in a later lecture I'll pick up on JavaScript on client-side computing, and if you want to put a JavaScript program to your code or add a JavaScript program to your code, you could add that within either the body or the head of your document. Usually people add it in the head document with the opening tag script, and then when you close your document, your tag, you'll see that the Visual Web Developer automatically closes this tag for you. And within this script, you could define the language of your script. For example, if you wanted this to be a JavaScript code, you define the language as JavaScript, and then you could either add a source code. For example, you could say that here language is JavaScript, and and as you saw, the IntelliSense technology from the Visual Web Developer automatically gave me the option. And you could add, for example, from this you could add the source of your JavaScript. And if you had the source code written, I don't have it here, but say I had a code.javascript, so if my source code was written in the file code.javascript, that would be automatically looking for that code and essentially adding the content of that code to my program or to my HTML document. And then I could use and call this function. So that's the inline calling of or actually external calling of a JavaScript code to my document. Next week we will talk about cascading style sheets, and if you have that kind of styles that you want to add to your file, to your HTML document, those cascading style sheets can also be added to your HTML document in the head element. So for now, let's just delete this script part of the document, and let's save our document. Okay, now that we talked about the head element, let's move on to the body element. And it's fairly simple. Body element contains anything and everything else that you want to put as the visual part of your web document, and it is basically the external functions or meta tags or the titles and the things that you put in head. So everything else aside from those elements will be put in the title, in the body element. Now, so here I could add just simple text. I could put block elements or block level elements to input coherent information. I could put headers. I could put different types of formatting elements to the body to format the text, and or add just simply empty elements such as returns, new lines and paragraphs, or horizontal rules and things like that. So, as I said, we could essentially, as a building block of our web document, we could add block level elements into our documents. Block level means that the content of the same type is put separately from other different blocks of the web page. So, for example, if you have a text that is put in a paragraph tag in one block, then all of the lines in the text will be presented within this paragraph, and they are separated from a different text block. The examples of this block elements can be essentially your head element, the comments, the titles, body, line breaks, inline elements, paragraphs, headings, unordered and ordered lists, horizontal lines. So all of these are essentially your block elements. Basically, the contents that you put, if they're not empty, the contents that you put within those elements are going to be presented as separate from the other blocks of your text. Alright, now that we have learned about the block elements, let's see how the body element works. Essentially, your body elements may contain any kind of other types of block elements that are used for formatting your text. You can use inline elements such as image to use a source image file, and put the image in your document. You can use paragraph elements. You can use ordered and unordered lists, definition lists, and headings. And I will talk about this elements as we move on. And basically, we can start with the image element and see what its parameters are, and then we move on step by step on the rest of these elements, and we'll see how they work. Okay, so here in terms of the inline elements, what they are basically they're displayed within the same block as the surrounding text around them, and so that's why they are called inline elements. Images and inline styles are examples of inline elements. So here is an inline image element that is used to display photos, and this attributes that this element has are shown in this page. So that's the image element. There's the source, which is essentially a universal resource indicator that tells you the location of the image, where the image is located. It could be either an image on the web, and you put it as a hyperlink, HTTP hyperlink, or it could be an image inside a folder within your website. And the long description is the attribute that specifies a link to a long description of the image. So for example, if you have information about your image, you could put that information whether it's on your website or on the internet. And you can use a shorter description using the alt element, and the alt element or alt attribute is essentially the alternative text that will be displayed if your image is not found. The name attribute is used to identify your image, and you can refer to your image from either your style sheets or your scripts using the name element. This is done to basically support downward compatibility or backwards compatibility, and in the newer versions of HTML you should always use ID attribute to identify elements instead of the name. And the ID attribute performs the same. It's a document-wide identifier, and it identifies your objects, different objects. It's also, you can also add a class attribute to this element, and that would allow you to use style sheets on it. You can add a title to the element using the title attribute, or you could align your element, specify the width of the element, the height of the element, its borders and horizontal and vertical spaces around your element by referring to these attributes respectively to modify and format the visual presentations of your images. So now let's see an example of how we can use these attributes to put an image within our web document or website. Alright. Okay, so here I'm in the body of the web document, and let me run the website. So this is my web page, and I refresh my web page. So as you see, there's nothing in the web page, and let's add an image. So image source equals okay. For the source, I need to add the image to this website. So I have my website here, and I have a image called desert, and I want to add this image to my file. So desert.jpg, and as alternative text need to add And if we run my document, again it wants me to save it, and here we are. So the image is now placed in my file. So back in my image tag, I could add other information to this image. So what I could do, let's use width and height to change the width and height of this image. So let's make it 150 pixels wide, and let's make the height. And as you see, as you type, your IntelliSense would essentially allow you to choose automatically from the attributes of your image in this case. So save the file, and let's run in the browser, and here's the image with 150 pixels wide and 189 pixels high. If you just remove one of the elements attributes, for example, if you just include the width and you save the file and you refresh your page, you see that your browser automatically makes the width 150 pixels wide and automatically uses the aspect ratio of the image to calculate the height of the new image. Okay, so you saw the image attribute, the image element, and how we could use the image element to add images to our website. One of the basic formatting elements that we use in our websites is the paragraph element that is within the tag P, and its attributes essentially, you can leave it empty, and then you can type within the content between the opening and closing paragraph element, type whatever you want, and it would create the stuff that you put in. Or you could use its attribute site, and site is another universal resource identifier, or URI, that points to a source document or a message. Let's say that you have a file with a text written in it, and you want, instead of putting that text and typing it in, you can use the site element within the attributes for the paragraph element, and you can use the site attribute for the paragraph element and point to that to the text or to the object that you want to show. There are other attributes that are defined elsewhere. ID is the name of that or the ID of the paragraph element, and this can be used to reference or cross-reference with hyperlinks, or use it in your scripts. Class is a styling, a formatting property or attribute for your paragraph. You can define the class, and then within your cascading style sheets you can assign different types of formatting to different classes of paragraphs you have. Language talks about the language of the paragraph. Direction is about the text direction. Title is a title element that when you hover your mouse pointer on the paragraph, it would show you external information. You can put inline style information with the style, and you can also add intrinsic events to the paragraph by clicking or double clicking and other kinds of information. Let's use the pre-tag to see if we can how we can use the pre-formatting of the paragraph. So let's use a paragraph within our website. Alright, so I have the image added. I'll keep the image here, and I add the paragraph, and if I put this as my first, and let me just make it okay. I saved the file, and let's run or refresh our website. So the image is put, and I have the image resized, and its width is 150, and its height is according to its aspect ratio. And here is my first paragraph. As you can see, although I have again formatting information within this source code, it will not show up on the actual web page. And if I resize my window, it would basically get resized, and the paragraph would be rendered accordingly. Now let's add another paragraph. And let's type here. Let's save and let's refresh our paragraph. So here's the way that my paragraphs are being rendered. If I wanted to put basically new lines, I would have to use the BR tag, and when I close with closing bracket, my web developer automatically closes self-closes the tag. And here's the okay, just to show you how the new line works. So the second paragraph, if you look at the 3 lines over here, the paragraphs are placed, and the new line creates a new line for the paragraph. Let's add another new line to this document, and you see that it actually enters lines within this document. So I made a new line from this line over here, which is the third last line, from this line to this line. Alright, so now if I wanted to order my paragraph in such a way that it would use a pre-formatting of from my code, I could use the pre tag, and then in the pre tag I could use this the formatting that I'm typing within my code. So, and when I save the file and I render it, so the pre-formatting, it takes the fonts and the formatting that I have within my text document, within my source document, and ignores the HTML formatting of it, and it shows the formatting as you can see in here. Alright, another one of the block elements is the heading element, and the heading elements basically define headings of your text, and the biggest or the largest heading or the main heading is H1 with the largest font size, and H6 is the smallest font size. They also can contain special elements, ID that uniquely identifies each of the elements. You can have several H1 headings and assign them different IDs, and when you want to use style sheets to make each of them different colors, you can use their IDs and their classes. If you want to reference to them by a hyperlink, you can use their ID names as their identifier and reference them. Like other elements we've seen so far, they have alignments that allow you to align them center or left or right. You can create inline styles with the style attributes to them. You can create titles to them and languages and so on. So let's go back to our browser and add a title to each of these elements. And also let's create heading elements for our page. So let's add a title. And let's refresh our page. So when I hover my mouse over the first paragraph, as you see, the title shows up in that tooltip box that tells me what it is. I can add the title to my image as well. And as you noticed, when I press a space within the tag, it allows me to choose from the IntelliSense the attributes that this element has. So therefore, I don't have to remember everything. So let's call its title. This is the desert image. And let's render the page again. You hover your mouse and the title shows up in a tooltip box. Now let's add to the first paragraph, let's add our first heading. So H1, and within the heading I would like to type I type this heading. This is the first paragraph heading. When I render it, you see that the paragraph heading is shown as the biggest font. Let's have for the second paragraph the title, and let's a heading, and let's make this heading, and let's assign a title to it. Let's call it second paragraph heading, and let's call this heading second paragraph. Save and run or refresh your file. So the second heading, as you can see, it's smaller, and if I hover the mouse over it, it will show the tooltip saying this, basically showing the title that I put in. Within my let's add a H3, and the heading for my subsection, as you will, and let's give this title. And type the title for the third paragraph, and let's run. And so the third title is smaller, and hover the mouse over it, and you see that the ones that I gave the title to, the title will show up, but the ones that I don't, they wouldn't show up. The style would allow you to essentially use this the styling or formatting of your elements, basically to create different fonts, different font sizes, and also to align your headers or your headings to according to the way you want them to show up. All right, let's talk about lists now. As I showed you again earlier, there are three actually different types of lists that you can use them in terms of creating itemized information in your documents. Ordered lists are the first lists of such kind. What they are essentially what it says. They are ordered lists, and the ordered list elements are encapsulated within the OL/OL tags, and the attributes for this are type, that discusses their style information. Of course, it's deprecated, and it's better not to use them as long as you can stay away from them. But you could essentially use the types, like for example, if you put the lowercase a, it would make the list to when you start with lowercase alphabetic ordering. If you make it uppercase A, it makes it alphabetic ordering of uppercase. You can put Roman numerals by putting lowercase I or an uppercase I, or by numerics by just putting a 1 in a quotation in front of the type. You can add the start number if you want your list to start from 7 or from D, for example. You could do that. Again, the value is the number that is deprecated, and you can use it for the list element within your ordered lists. And another deprecated attribute is the compact attribute, and if you set it, it gives a hint to visual user agents to render the list in a more compact way. And it really depends on the type of browser and type of user agent that will be using this this ordered list element. I'm not going to go into the details of this. You can experiment with all these attributes and check them out yourself. A counterpart for ordered lists are unordered lists, and everything with the ordered and unordered lists are pretty much the same, with the exception of the fact that the unordered lists do not show or order the list in a sequential manner. The type you can discuss as use a circle or a diamond or a star, and different types of characters that you want to put in front of your list when they are rendered. The start number specifies the starting number of the first item in your ordered lists. However, you could basically ignore that element. And everything else for unordered lists is pretty much the same with the ordered list. The definition lists are interesting in a sense that they are similar in style to a dictionary definition. And for example, if you put the DL element, you can put the DT element that describes the data term. For example, in a dictionary, the data term that you want to define is, say, the word dictionary. And then the second part, or the second element that you put in your definition list is a DD element, that is the data definition element, and it contains a block level content that is rendered in an italic font, and it defines the term that you wanted to use. And let's try to see all these three elements in action. Okay, let us use an ordered list in our first paragraph. So what I will do is that at the end of one of these lines, I'll add a return, and then let's add an ordered list, and let's put the type as numerical. Okay, this would create my ordered list. Now I need to put a list element within this ordered list, and let's type, and let's add another list element, And let's add a third list element. Let's run our list, and here is our ordered list: item 1, item 2, item 3. Let's change the starting number for the element, and when I put the starting number at 3, 3, 4, 5, so it starts from 3 and it goes 3, 4, 5 for each of these items. Let's change this to a lowercase alphabetical, and because I started from 3, it starts from letter C, D, and E, as you can see from here. Let's make it uppercase Roman numerals, and again it starts from 3 uppercase numerals and it goes 4 and 5. Let's create another list down here and make this one unordered list, and within this unordered list let's use the list element and let's create the items. Save the file and render. As you see, it used dots to list these items. You could use different types for this ordered list, and you can have circle, and this would render them as small circles. You can have disk, and it would render them as the disks. That was the default. And you can have square, and it would show them as blocked squares. Now these are deprecated, so you're limited to a small number of items that you could use. You could, on the other hand, use this style information and within the style information you can enter you can define a style in your cascading style sheet, and then you can use that style for them, or you can add an ID to them and reference them as in a cascading in CSS external or internal styling document. Styling representation to change the way that they would look in your browsers. Now finally, let's add a data dictionary here, or a data definition list. So let's add a DL, and within this DL let me add a data term, and my data term is, and my data definition so this uses the dictionary like formatting to show my definition of the data. Okay, so here we are at the almost end of the basic HTML element representation. There are different types of tags that I would like to talk about, and I'll show you, but we wouldn't see any difference. There are physical tags and logical tags. Physical tags are the tags that are rendered exactly as they are presented within within the browsers, such as boldface and italic face. But not all agent devices can use this physical tags. For example, if you have a device that reads your HTML and from your internet, and then actually physically presents them as a speech signal, basically reads them aloud, it cannot read the bold or the italic face. It would not be able to have a representation for this these tags. That's the reason for the logical element. So if you're trying to render and be able to support many other different agent devices, you'd have to use logical elements. And logical elements are basically what they are. They are logical. So for example, if you use the strong element, it logically types, if it's rendering it on a browser, it types it in a boldface or a strong font. If you use the env element, EMPH, that is renders as italic to be emphasized on a browser, and it would use the other agent devices, for example the speech agent that I was talking about, to render it as an emphasized piece of information. Could be a different voice, for example, or a different intonation or different tone. So let's use the examples of this tags to see how they format our document. Let me put a boldface document, boldface tag in the first line that I highlighted here. So let's add a B tag, and it automatically creates my closing document. I cut this and paste it at the end of this text. So if I render this file, in this paragraph you see that this element or this part of the paragraph is rendered in a bold face. Now let's render the one right after the item 3 in the unordered list as a strong font. So let's add strong. Now as you see, when I type STRO, it automatically, the IntelliSense points out to the strong word. Now if I just press enter right now, if I click on this strong, it automatically creates the strong font for me, and if I close it, it closes the document. So because I was at the end, at the beginning of a word, it basically eliminated the word this. So here is how the document is set, and let's run the document, and it makes the bold, the second paragraph, this line of the paragraph, the first line of the paragraph, bold. So both of them are represented the same within my browser. Now if I wanted to use different agents who were not able to represent the first boldface, they would ignore the tag and they would just refresh my strong logical element. Now before this ordered list, let me add italicized words. So I can put the I element, and here you see the I is highlighted, and if I close the tag, it would just highlight and finish the tag placement. And I put this sentence in here. Now let's render the page, and as you see, the sentence is rendered in italic, and because it's a part of the first paragraph, when I move over it, it would show the title of the first paragraph in the tooltip. Okay, at the end of this list, let me add a emphasized element. So let's close the emphasize. And here it is. This is an emphasized element, which is italicized exactly the same, because my browser renders the logical emphasized and the physical italicized both in italic. Let's add return at the end of this line so that it would be separated. Okay, now another type of formatting elements that I would like to talk about, which are logical elements, is the center, left and right elements. Now let's assume that I wanted to make this big heading, or the first heading, centered in the middle of the screen or the browser. At the moment it's by default justified left. Now in order to make that alignment, I would use the center tag, and I move the closing element of the center tag at the end of my first heading, and when I render it, it would put the center heading, or the first heading, in the center of the browser or the page that is rendered on my browser. I could add a horizontal tag to separate the heading from, or the big title of this page from its other parts or its other components. And finally, if I want to create an underline text, I could use the heading U, and this would underline the part of the text that I would like to emphasize. Here it is. So I had put the underline element in my text, which is the third sentence, and the third sentence in my browser is underlined. Okay, so far what I showed you is that a web page that I just created, and it contains a centered and underlined heading, actually a centered heading, an underlined sentence. There are paragraphs in it. There were a secondary heading and a tertiary heading, and I put ordered and unordered lists, and I used bold and emphasized and underlined sentences in my paragraphs. And essentially I showed you how to use the basic HTML elements. Next, we would like to talk about more advanced topics in HTML, and the beginning of the advanced topics is hyperlinks, which is why HTML and HTTP were introduced to render the web.